In a single generation, a minor king of a subject people conquered the three great powers of his age and forged an empire stretching from the shores of the Aegean to the mountains of Central Asia. He ruled it not through massacre and deportation, but through a tolerance so unusual that a Hebrew prophet called him the Anointed of God, and a Greek historian held him up as the model of a just king. He freed captive nations, restored their gods, and let the exiles go home. This is the life of Cyrus the Great. In the middle of the 6th century BC, the Near East was carved among four kingdoms. The Medes held the Iranian plateau from their capital at Ecbatana. Lydia, rich beyond reckoning, ruled Asia Minor from Sardis. The Neo-Babylonian Empire commanded Mesopotamia and the Levant, and Egypt held the Nile. Among the Medes' many vassals was a small Persian kingdom in the southwest called Anshan. Its king would unmake this entire order. Cyrus was born around 600 BC, son of Cambyses I, king of Anshan, of the Achaemenid line that traced itself to an ancestor named Achaemenes. His people, the Persians, were subjects of the Median Empire. According to Herodotus, Cyrus's mother was Mandane, daughter of the Median king Astyages himself, making Cyrus the grandson of the very overlord he would one day overthrow. He came to the throne of Anshan around 559 BC. Herodotus tells a legend that reads like myth. King Astyages, warned by dreams that his grandson would seize his throne, ordered the infant Cyrus killed. The official charged with the deed could not do it and gave the child to a herdsman to raise in secret. Years later the boy's royal bearing betrayed him, but Astyages was persuaded to spare him. The tale echoes the birth stories of Sargon and Moses. History cannot confirm it, but the pattern of the abandoned child destined for greatness clung to Cyrus from the start. Around 553 BC Cyrus rose in revolt against Median rule. The Babylonian chronicles and later tradition agree that the war lasted about 3 years. The decisive moment came when part of Astyages' own army, under a nobleman named Harpagus in Herodotus's account, mutinied and went over to Cyrus. Astyages was captured, and around 550 BC Cyrus took the Median capital of Ecbatana with its treasures. With the fall of Astyages, Cyrus inherited the whole Median Empire, its administration, and its nobility. He did not exterminate the Medes but bound them to his new order, and Greeks would long speak of the Medes and Persians almost as one people. The Achaemenid Empire was born. Cyrus now ruled the Iranian plateau, and the balance of power across the Near East had shifted overnight. The rise of Persia alarmed King Croesus of Lydia, whose wealth was already proverbial, the source of the phrase rich as Croesus. Croesus had married his sister to Astyages and now saw his brother-in-law's empire devoured. Herodotus says he consulted the oracle at Delphi about whether to make war on Persia. The oracle, as tradition tells it, replied that if Croesus attacked Persia he would destroy a great empire. Delighted, he crossed the Halys River to invade. He did not consider that the great empire fated to fall might be his own. The story is likely a Greek moral tale about pride and ambiguous prophecy, but the war it describes was entirely real. The two armies met inconclusively at Tyria, and Croesus withdrew for the winter, dismissing his troops. Cyrus pursued him with startling speed and forced battle before Sardis. Herodotus records that Cyrus set his baggage camels before his line, and the Lydian horses, unused to the smell, panicked and broke. Cyrus then besieged Sardis and stormed it, capturing Croesus and ending the Lydian kingdom. The fate of Croesus became legend. Herodotus says Cyrus set him upon a pyre to be burned, and there Croesus cried out the name of the Athenian sage Solon, who had once warned him to count no man happy until his end. Moved, Cyrus is said to have ordered the fire quenched and spared him, keeping the fallen king as an advisor. A famous red figure vase shows Croesus enthroned upon his pyre. Whether mercy or myth, it fixed Cyrus's reputation as a conqueror who could show clemency. With Lydia gone, its former subjects, the wealthy Greek cities of Ionia along the Aegean coast, now faced Persia. Cyrus left the campaign against them to his generals, chiefly Harpagus, who reduced the Ionian and Aeolian cities one by one. Persian rule now reached the Western Sea, planting the seed of a conflict that would erupt 2 generations later in the Greco-Persian Wars. Between his western wars, Cyrus campaigned east across the Iranian plateau, bringing regions such as Parthia, Bactria, Sogdiana, and the lands toward the Indus frontier under Persian control. The sources for these campaigns are thin, but by their end his empire stretched across the whole breadth of the plateau to Central Asia. Only one great rival now remained, Babylon. Babylon was the greatest city of the age, ringed by legendary walls astride the Euphrates, heir to Nebuchadnezzar's conquests. But its last king, Nabonidus, had alienated the powerful priesthood of the god Marduk by promoting the moon god Sin and by absenting himself for years in the Arabian oasis of Tema, leaving his son Belshazzar in charge at Babylon. The empire was ripe, and Cyrus knew it. In 539 BC Cyrus marched into Mesopotamia. The Babylonian chronicle records that he defeated the Babylonian army at Opis on the Tigris, followed by a slaughter of the people there. The nearby city of Sippar surrendered without a fight. The road to Babylon lay open, and the great capital had lost its shield. According to the Babylonian Chronicle and the Cyrus Cylinder, Babylon itself was taken without a fight, entered by Cyrus's general Gobryas while Nabonidus was captured. Cyrus entered the city in triumph a little later, and it is said green branches were spread before him. Later Greek writers embroidered the tale, saying the Persians diverted the Euphrates to wade in beneath the walls, but the earliest records describe a near bloodless fall. The Book of Daniel dramatizes the fall in the story of Belshazzar's feast, where a disembodied hand writes upon the wall the words that foretell the kingdom's end, weighed and found wanting, given to the Medes and Persians. The account is theological rather than strictly historical, but it preserves the memory of a mighty empire that fell suddenly to Cyrus, and the awe that his victory inspired. Rather than plunder Babylon's temples, Cyrus presented himself as the chosen of Marduk, the city's own supreme god, come to restore proper worship that Nabonidus had neglected. He returned to their sanctuaries the divine images that Nabonidus had gathered into the capital. By ruling as a legitimate Babylonian king rather than a foreign tyrant, Cyrus won over the priesthood and secured Mesopotamia with a policy of respect rather than terror. Cyrus recorded his settlement of Babylon on a clay cylinder, discovered in 1879 and now in the British Museum. Written in Akkadian cuneiform, it condemns Nabonidus, credits Marduk with choosing Cyrus, and proclaims the restoration of temples and the return of displaced peoples to their homes. It is a royal propaganda text in the Mesopotamian tradition, not a modern charter, yet it stands as a remarkable early statement of a policy of religious tolerance and repatriation. Among the peoples freed by Cyrus's policy were the Jews, deported to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar decades earlier. The Book of Ezra records a decree of Cyrus permitting them to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple of their God, and even restoring the sacred vessels that had been carried off. This ended the Babylonian exile and made Cyrus a hero of the Hebrew Bible, celebrated for generations by a people he set free. The book of Isaiah goes further still, naming Cyrus directly and calling him the Anointed One, the shepherd chosen by God to fulfill his purpose and rebuild Jerusalem. It is the only time the Hebrew scriptures grant that title to a foreign, non-Jewish king. No conqueror of the ancient world was so honored by the people he had liberated, and it sealed Cyrus's fame far beyond the Persian world. Cyrus governed his vast realm through provinces, later formalized into satrapies, each under a governor who answered to the king while local customs, laws, and religions were largely left intact. He did not force one language or one god upon his subjects. This model of a multi-ethnic empire held together by tolerance and local autonomy, rather than by uniform oppression, was his lasting political invention, and his heirs Darius and Xerxes would build upon it. Cyrus built his capital at Pasargadae, in the Persian heartland of Fars, said to stand where he had won his decisive battle against the Medes. Its palaces, gardens, and audience halls, set within a great walled paradise garden, expressed a new imperial style drawing on the many peoples of his empire. A surviving relief there shows a winged figure, once thought to depict Cyrus himself, above which tradition placed the words, "I am Cyrus the King," an Achaemenid. The famous winged relief at Pasargadae fuses Elamite, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian motifs into a single figure, a fitting emblem for a ruler who wove many cultures into one empire. Whether or not it portrays Cyrus, it marks the birthplace of Achaemenid royal art. From this small Persian kingdom would come an imperial vision that outlasted its founder by 2 centuries. In his final years Cyrus turned to secure his northeastern frontier against the Pasargadae, a fierce nomadic people of the Central Asian steppe beyond the Oxus. Herodotus says their ruler was a widow queen named Tamaris. When Cyrus's marriage overture and then his army crossed into her lands, war followed. Herodotus tells that Cyrus's men trapped part of her host by feigning retreat and leaving a feast of wine, then slaughtered them, capturing and driving to suicide the queen's own son. In the great battle that followed, Herodotus calls it the fiercest fought among barbarians. The Pasargadae destroyed the Persian army and killed Cyrus himself around 530 BC. Tradition says the vengeful Tamaris sought out his body and thrust his head into a skin filled with blood, telling the dead king to drink his fill of the blood he had thirsted for. The accounts of his death vary, but all agree he fell campaigning in the east, an old man still at war. Cyrus's body was brought home to Pasargadae and laid in a tomb that still stands today, a modest gabled chamber of pale stone raised upon 6 broad steps. It is strikingly plain for the founder of the ancient world's largest empire. Ancient writers record an inscription that tradition placed upon it, addressed to any who might pass, "O man, I am Cyrus, who won the Persians their empire. Do not grudge me this little earth that covers my body." 2 centuries later, Alexander the Great swept through Persia and destroyed the Achaemenid dynasty Cyrus had founded. Yet Alexander revered Cyrus above all earlier kings. When he came to Pasargadae and found the tomb plundered and violated, he was enraged and ordered it restored and its guardians punished. The Macedonian who ended Cyrus's empire honored its founder as a model of kingship, and Cyrus's legend passed into the West. The Greek soldier and writer Xenophon made Cyrus the hero of his Cyropaedia, a semi-fictional account of the ideal ruler and his education. Though more moral treatise than history, it carried Cyrus's fame through the classical world and into the Renaissance and beyond, read by statesmen and later admired by thinkers of the Enlightenment as a portrait of enlightened kingship. Few founders have been so consistently held up as a model to imitate. At his death Cyrus left an empire larger than any before it, stretching from the Aegean to Central Asia, held together for the first time not by mass terror but by a working system of tolerance and provincial rule. His heirs Cambyses and Darius would push it to the Indus and the Nile, making the Achaemenid realm the first true world empire. Persians remembered him simply as the father, and even his enemies granted him the title Great. Cyrus the Great rose from a subject king to the founder of the ancient world's greatest empire, remembered not only for his conquests but for the mercy and tolerance with which he ruled. He freed the captive, restored the fallen, and set a standard of kingship that outlived his empire by thousands of years. Follow for more of history's greatest leaders.